You're watching Twin Tiers Sunday with Jennifer Sheahen.
As we kick off the holiday season, festivities in our area will bring cheer to the Twin Tiers. One Chemung County organization works tirelessly every year to make sure every single child in our area gets a Christmas present from Santa. Today we hear how the spirit of the Arctic League makes Christmas happen every year. All right, so now that you saw a little bit about the Arctic League, we're going to learn about the history. Tom Bruner, tell me, how did this all get started some 100 years ago?
Well, actually, it was over 100 years ago, in 1912. Fun-loving bunch of guys playing baseball in wintertime got together, and they used to tell baseball stories at a local cigar store. And that particular day, they were leaving, and one of the fellas found a youngster crying by the railroad tracks because he didn't have much, and it was Christmas time. And they brought that youngster back to the cigar store, and they reached in their pockets and said, "Let's make this youngster happy." He was called Friday because that was the day of the week that he was found. He became the first person to receive from the Arctic League because this group said, "Wasn't that a good feeling of helping this kid?" And they all agreed it was. So they reached in their pockets and said, "You know, there are more of these children out there." So initially from the small group, it enlarged and enlarged and eventually became incorporated to a point now, 100 years later, we service 35 to 4,000 children a year, which is remarkable. And it all started with that one youngster.
Is it something in our modern day times? It's a tough thing. You know, people have their television and families and busy lives, and we sometimes often don't take the time to think about giving back to our community or think about standing outside in the cold to give away presents the next day. Is it something that has held true here in Chemung County? Because there are not a lot of places like this in the United States, a lot of organizations like this that take the time every year to make sure something great happens on Christmas Day.
Well, you know, when you can create a program like this that involves the community in every special way, every aspect of this program involves the community, they own it. And so therefore, by having ownership, they have the collective feeling of goodwill. It's their program. They can put their arms around it. They know the good feeling. They can donate money. They can come down here and help pack with groups. They can help deliver these packages and see the glee and the happiness on people's faces Christmas morning. So there isn't one part of this program that they're not a part of. That's why it's so successful.
And I guess now, what is the first event of every year that kicks off everything? And this is like the grandiose event. I see that this is coming up on the calendar. It's like the most exciting day of the year because, you know, Christmas is almost here.
Well, it's traditionally it's called the opening of the Big Book. The Big Book, it's kind of it's an old phrase of a book that was used to record every single donor to the Arctic League. Well, now, of course, we have new technology. It's on tapes, it's in computer systems and so forth, but we symbolically still open the Big Book, and we invite our new president, any new board member, and a new bell ringer to come and be a part of that activity.
That's wonderful. So right now we're going to take a look at this year's Big Book opening.
We have a goal of 120,000, and that's been our goal for a number of years, and we expect to reach it. And today we opened our books officially, took them around. We have 14 locations where we have auxiliary books for people to drop off their donations.
The Arctic League raises money to support nearly 4,000 Chemung County children who are in need of Christmas gifts this season. Volunteers from around the area then deliver the gifts on Christmas morning. Money raised this year will be used for next year's Christmas season. On hand for this year's Big Book opening was 10-year-old bell ringer Riley Fessich.
I help out in my community a lot, and I do a lot of community service, like go to food pantries and do community lunches. And so I thought, and I wanted to, and I heard about this in the newspaper, and I wanted to help out with it and help have the kids have a good Christmas this year in my community.
The Arctic League will now begin to prepare for their broadcast telethon on December 6th.
When the Arctic League hits its big goal, they say thank you very much, give the rest of the money to another local charity or wherever you think it needs to go. And then all the packing and kind of how do you unravel this giant room and get it to where it needs to go?
Well, we have 12 nights of packing that occur here at the Arctic League headquarters. It all starts this year on December 9th, and Johnny Corsi, for a number of years now, has been in charge of the directors of packing nights. Johnny goes out, and he doesn't really have to solicit help because people are begging, basically, to help us. We have 33 different groups that come in here this year. Will be 33. There are another 33 or 50 in line that would like to be here. So we have to be cautious and careful about allowing enough people here, but we don't want so many people here that they have nothing to do. Now, the nice thing is that a volunteer who elects to come down here Christmas morning to deliver these packages, they're not going to be sent to the hills of Sheahen County. They're going to only have to deliver to Elmira proper because the wonderful volunteer firemen in our community deliver all those packages to the outlying areas.
Wow.
So that is a great assist to us.
That's very nice. Well, now we're going to look at all that excitement. So here was last year's, one of last year's packing events.
Is a family of 3, a girl 12, boy 7, boy 8.
For more than 100 years, thousands of boys and girls across Sheahen County have awakened to presents under the tree from the Arctic League, put together and delivered early Christmas morning.
Right now, as being on the board of directors, being the president this year is the best. I mean, being able to represent an amazing group of volunteers.
And tonight was day 1 of packing, and more than 50 volunteers stocked bags full of gifts for kids ages 1 through 12 from 125 different families. And some of the volunteers this year were once on the receiving end of the gifts they're preparing.
There's a lot of people who come down to deliver and thank us that way also. And it's just a great big community get-together.
Last year, more than 3,000 kids received presents, prepared in this very room by people who just want to spread the holiday cheer.
I just signed up just to see what it was about and how it worked, and after that, I just loved it.
I like that kids who don't get Christmas are getting Christmas, they're getting presents.
The parents, the smile on their faces and the thank yous, and they're sitting there having their coffee with a little light on, you know, in the kitchen waiting for the bags to come.
Everybody's getting involved, and once you started getting involved with the Arctic League, were you taken back by just how massive this organization touches every single part of our community?
It is remarkable. There's no question. There's some magic about it. I like to say that Arctic League and community are synonymous terms. One is the other. I recall a newscast some years ago, a reporter was asking the citizen on the street, well, what's good about Elmira? And the one gentleman said, well, the Arctic League, of course. And maybe that's what it is. Because we're wholesome, because we're good, because we're real, we don't take anything for granted. We don't spend a nickel of the community's money for anything but for toys for the kids. And the people know this program is theirs.
And now, as the presents are getting ready to be delivered, talk about that day, because last year, I believe you guys had too many volunteers that you had to turn away people. I'm talking, these people sit in the middle of the night in the cold December like air and frost and snow, and they get ready to deliver presents. It's incredible. You know, I moved here from Chicago, and I've never seen, we don't have anything like that there. There is really something spectacular that happens. And Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, families get together and come down here. Tell me about that experience, because it is almost overwhelming when you see the amount of support.
Well, the lines are amazing. They really are. It's incredible when you see these families come year after year, and they bring their children with them, and they make it a tradition. It's, you know, that their Christmas, their personal Christmas, will not start until they have done this wonderful thing for less fortunate people.
While most people at 6 on Christmas morning are sleeping, anxiously awaiting Santa, thousands of residents from all around the Twin Tiers decided to wake up early and be the man in red themselves.
Just giving back to the community makes you feel good about yourself.
Every year, families and friends line up outside the Arctic League, awaiting the opportunity to make a Christmas wish come true.
We do it every year, just to make sure if anybody didn't get their presents, we come back and try and get a hold of them and make sure they get what they, you know, give them a good Christmas. Because it's to help the kids. I mean, that's what it's about. It's about Christmas and giving.
And this year, the Arctic League continued to increase their numbers, giving gifts to over 1,600 families.
We packed a few more families than we did last year. I think the unofficial number is 1,650. Last year was 1,636, so we're pretty much right on with that. Donations, we made our goal prior to Christmas, so that's 13 years in a row that we've closed the big book prior to Christmas, so that's great.
About 5,000 people contribute each year, and the Arctic League could not be more thankful for the help of their volunteers.
And they are fantastic with all of our community organizations and churches and businesses. They all come down and help us pack. And then delivering this morning, done in 45 minutes. It went great.
Now I want to touch on the bell ringer. How do you choose this one person out of the whole entire community? And they're very young, incredible children. I was definitely not a good kid like that. So how do you go about this process every year in picking a child to represent this just impactful organization?
So we advertise in the paper and on television, and we have children write to us telling us why they would like to do this. It is amazing. The letters that come in are really heartfelt letters about kids that are way beyond their years.
And can I ask you about actually the bell ringer that you're going to hear from after the break? His name is Ryan. He was the bell ringer in 2011, and you were telling me the story of his letter well before we started filming here. And it was incredible. You could almost see his mom even tearing up. She stood beside me and she was like, yes, that's true. That did happen. It was very touching to see the whole family there listen to you tell the story of his letter that he wrote years ago.
Yes, and I'm not breaching any confidentiality because this letter was published in our paper with the permission of the parents. But Ryan wrote to us and said that the Arctic League would be special to him if he could be the bell ringer because his grandmother received from the Arctic League and had 8 children. That included his mother. And if it wasn't for the Arctic League, they weren't going to have a Christmas. Well, on Christmas morning when the package arrived, apparently the grandmother's husband or some male in that home went to the volunteer delivering the packages and said, well, we don't want the Arctic League, thank you very much. And the grandmother said, well, I am sorry, but yes, we do, and thank you very much. And she started crying. And she told this story to Ryan over and over again and said, Ryan, if you could someday be the bell ringer, that would be so happy. You would make me so happy. And she kept saying this to Ryan. So he finally agreed to send this letter to us, and he became our bell ringer. But the grandmother had already passed away, so he was doing it in her memory. And he said that every time I ring that bell on that broadcast, he says, I'm going to be thinking of my grandmother.
It's a very touching story, as you can see. It's very beautiful, and they all, you said a lot of these bell ringers have similar stories where their families were touched by the organization.
It's true, and I do want to point out that when we select a bell ringer, it's done anonymously. We black out any identification of that child so that our committee, when we're looking at it, we're looking at simply a child that is so old. We don't know their name, we don't know where they go to school, we don't know their address. We want to do it that way because we want to take any connection out of it. We just want to make this as pure as possible. This year, our bell ringer, it was a unanimous selection for the little girl, and she, I think, is going to be outstanding for us. Riley Fessich, she was at our opening of the book. She's going to be in our parade on Friday. She'll be at the broadcast. She'll be here helping pack. She'll be here Christmas morning. She'll get a full experience of what the Arctic League's all about.
And coming up after the break, you're going to be able to meet both Ryan and Riley. They're going to tell you their stories, how much they do for the Arctic League, and how you can get involved as well. Welcome back. You just learned all about the history of the Arctic League, and now it's time to turn it over to our bell ringers, former and present. Now, congratulations, you are the newest bell ringer. Tell me your name, Riley, and where you're from, and how you got into this position.
So my name is Riley, and I'm from Horseheads, and I got into this because my nurse actually brought me the paper that had it in there and thought that I would be the perfect person for it. And so my mom told me about it, and so I decided that I was going to write a letter to it.
That's wonderful. And what are some of the duties that you've had done so far this year?
I have opened the big book for them. And also, I've done community service already. I've done helping in my community, doing community lunches, doing food pantries. So, and then when I heard about this, I thought it would be a great experience to do more of my community service.
Definitely wonderful. And what does it mean so far to you to be the bell ringer? I know you've got a lot more experiences that are going to be coming your way, but what have you felt so far about being part of the program?
I felt excited because I knew that I would be helping kids in my community and my region, helping and having them get presents on Christmas, so I thought it would be amazing to do it.
There you go. And what did you take away from your experience? You were a bell ringer back in 2011. Go ahead and tell everybody your name and then also where you're from.
I'm Ryan Benedict, and I'm from Elmira Heights, New York. I go to Cohen Elementary School, and I wanted to do it because it was part of my family, because my grandparents had to receive gifts from them, and they always thought that I should do that because it would help the community for people kind of like them. And what I took away from it was that it's always good to help people, and everyone needs help sometimes, and it's just good to help them if they need it.
Definitely. And you guys are an interesting group of kids, because there's a lot of kids out there that don't want to, take the time to dedicate their lives and free time to volunteering. So do you see your friends wanting to get involved with this, or do you think that you've really stepped up above and beyond your peers?
Well, I have really good friends, and all my classmates are really involved in the community. Like, we have Builders Club in our school, and most of our grade actually is in that, and we help out people. And I could see most of my friends and classmates do that kind of thing. We have a really good class.
Oh, that's great. And how about you, Riley? Do you think a lot of your friends would like to come down and help out the Arctic League?
Well, if I asked them, probably yes, and maybe some of my classmates would come, maybe not all of them. And I've actually asked my one friend to come in the parade with me, and she said that would be amazing. So she wants to know more about it.
Would you encourage others to apply for the bell ringer position next year? If that classmate that's coming with you now, would you tell her, you know what, you should apply, and here's some tips on how you might be able to get that position?
Yeah, that would be really cool. Because that would be amazing for having me help somebody else get to have this awesome experience.
Definitely. And how about you?
Yeah, I think it would be really cool to have your friend do it after you, because it would just feel like they want to get involved in the community too.
What's a tip that you would give them? Something that, obviously you guys both had very interesting stories, and that's what grabbed the attention of the Arctic League. What would you tell your friends to have in hands when they want to apply next year?
If they would apply, I'd say just have a lot of courage and just make them feel like you're a really good kid and that you want to help people.
Definitely. And what was your favorite memory out of, the whole season that you were there? What was the one time that you really said, you know what, I'm really happy that I did this and all that effort and all that work really paid off?
I think once we got into the whole show, where you announced the donations and stuff, that was my favorite part, because all the butterflies and stuff got out of your stomach and you're just I did this and all the work paid off.
That's great. And then, did you ever deliver presents before?
No, not yet.
You haven't yet, and you have delivered presents before, right? So what are some of the reactions of the families that are at the doors accepting these donations?
Well, a lot of them were really grateful. No one was mad. They all were so nice to you when you opened the door, and some of them even cried and teared up, and because they were all so grateful that you were
there and helping out. That's really nice. All right. And what is your thing that you're looking forward to? Is it the parade? Is it closing the big book? Is it delivering the presents? Or is it just the whole experience?
I think it would be the whole experience, because what I've done so far is really exciting, and what I've heard about sounds like it's going to be an amazing experience.
And this is just for the girls out there. What are you going to wear in the parade?
Probably, it depends now. It's up in the air because they said it was supposed to be nice out. We got all these hats and gloves and everything, and so now we don't know what to do anymore, because we have all these warm stuff, but now it's to keep us warm, but now we need stuff to keep us cold.
You're going to have fun either way, right? Perfect. Thank you guys so much for coming out and talking to me. And I know that you learned a little bit about them throughout this whole entire show. And coming up after the break, you're going to find out how you'll be able to get involved this year with the Arctic League, because there's still a lot to be done and they need your help. Welcome back. Awesome bell ringers, must I say. So now I want you to be able to find out how you can get involved this year with the Arctic League. Take it away.
Well, pretty much things are rolling along nicely. We have 33 groups that are going to be down here helping pack, so that's pretty much covered. What we are looking for, and please, listening audience, if you're looking for something to do on Sunday, December 6th for the broadcast, come down to the Clemens Center, and free of charge. Sit in the audience and watch some wonderful local entertainment. Won't cost you a penny. You'll have some fun. You'll enjoy what you're doing. We're not going to charge anything. If you want to make a donation, that's entirely up to you. And so that would be one thing. The second thing, of course, the organization runs on donations. And, if we don't receive the donations, then we're going to be short on giving to the children. The community has never let us down, never. We've met our goal every single year of our existence. And so therefore, I would encourage people that any amount of money, it doesn't matter, whatever you can afford to give to help some children feel important on Christmas morning. What we don't want to do is have any child ever feel that Santa deserted them. I mean, that's unfair to the child. They don't know their economic situation, and they don't know why they're in that circumstance. And it's not just the impoverished. I mean, there are people that truly are in a financial bind because of maybe medical problems or other issues, not just because they are impoverished because of a lack of a dollar. So it's important that the child always be centerpiece to what we're doing. So please, if you have spare change, a couple of dollars, make a donation to the Arctic League, become a member. And finally, if you're looking for something wonderful to do on Christmas morning to kickstart your day, come down here to Arctic League headquarters. Assist us in delivering these packages to the children. I'm just going to tell you, you'll be so happy you made that choice.
And that's, Tom, how long have you been working with the Arctic League?
I came on the board in like 1988, so it's been a little over 25, 27 years.
It's 27. That's the year I was born.
27, okay. Oh, all right.
Happy 27th anniversary.
Well, happy 27th birthday at some point.
So tell me, after 27 years of doing this, you may have even been a volunteer before that, I'm not sure. After all these years, can you recall one time you've delivered where it just really has taken your breath away?
Well, I guess I'll reverse it to, maybe why I got involved. I was asked, of course, to become a member of the board, and that was a board decision. But my personal history goes back to a time when our family was in a very, very financial strait, and with my father had passed away very early in his life. Early 40s, and there were 5 children left behind. And if it wasn't for the Arctic League, there was going to be a very dire Christmas in our house. So, but that's just one story. There are so many people in our community that can tell you that same story. And I think that's another reason why this organization is so loved by so many, because they know it's real. And when they can get beyond their personal circumstances, they can now help out and make this thing go for another 100 years.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Tom. And one last question, is email, phone, what's the best way to get a hold of you if somebody has any questions or wants to make a donation or anything at all?
Well, for those who are fortunate to have internet capabilities, we are on Facebook. We do have an Arctic League page, and there's a lot of information there that tells you how to donate and tells you more about some of the special circumstances of the Arctic League. The Arctic League is listed in the phone directory, and we do have a staff here, manned, or staffed, I should say, not manned, staffed by volunteers. Surprise. I mean, because everything about us is volunteers. And the folks here are wonderful. They will be helpful to any questions that come in. And if anybody has a special request about the Arctic League, by all means, contact us in some form or fashion through the internet or here at the office, and we'll absolutely be sure to get back to you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate you taking the time today to explain all of this wonderfulness of the Arctic League.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you.
I love the holiday season. It's all about being with family, good music, and giving back. Remember, there's always a way to help your community. After all, it's what brings back the spirit of the season every year. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'll see you next Sunday. Every child should have a present from Santa come Christmas morning, a motto the Arctic League has held true for over 100 years. This Sunday, learn how they make it all happen and how you can lend a hand.